welcome to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on really a crucial journey into the world of information technology research.
Yeah, it's fundamental stuff.
Exactly. Like when a new AI algorithm comes out, or maybe an app claims it'll completely change how we work, how do we actually know if it works? Or if it's really new?
That's the core question, isn't it?
Right. And that's the challenge. Our source material today, topic1.pdf, really helps us tackle. So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack what research truly means, especially for ICT.
And explore the methods, the rigorous ways used to create knowledge you can actually verify. New knowledge.
Yeah, so you're going to walk away with, hopefully, a powerful toolkit for evaluating information and, understanding innovation in tech. Okay, let's unpack this.
Absolutely. We'll be looking at the basic definitions, the core aims of research, and crucially, the practical approaches researchers use to get from just a question to, well, validated new knowledge. And what's really fascinating here is how these ideas, they aren't just academic exercises. They give you a clear roadmap for understanding and even driving real innovation and, sophisticated problem solving in the tech world.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. The big question, what is research? Our material gives us a couple of common dictionary definitions to kick things off.
Okay.
One describes it as careful study that is done to find and report new knowledge about something. Pretty straightforward.
Sounds reasonable.
And the other is simply the activity of getting information about a subject. Now, first glance, it might sound kind of similar, right?
I do, yeah.
But what's the critical difference we really need to get here?
That's a fantastic point. It gets right to the heart of it, because while both involve gathering information, that first definition, it crucially emphasizes new knowledge.
Ah, okay. New
Okay.
knowledge.
Exactly. And that leads us to a, let's say, more robust definition from Oates, who's a key resource here. Oates defines research as the creation of new knowledge using an appropriate process to the satisfaction of the users of the research.
Appropriate process and satisfaction of the users. That adds some layers.
It does. It highlights that research isn't just, collecting facts like stamps. It's a deliberate, systematic process, and it's aimed at generating something genuinely novel, something useful.
That idea of creating new knowledge, it really elevates it, doesn't it? When you think about those huge discoveries like understanding gravity or mapping DNA, figuring out the universe.
Yeah, paradigm shifts.
Right. These weren't just about piling up facts. They were these deep inquiries that totally changed how we did things. And then you have the practical side, like research leading to electricity or penicillin.
Or even, the atomic bomb, for better or worse.
True. These aren't just interesting findings. They are profound creations that came out of a methodical approach.
Precisely. And connecting this to the bigger picture, the outcomes of this kind of, rigorous research can be incredibly varied.
Like what?
Well, it might be a new or improved product, maybe a technique, or it could be a new or modified model or theory that just explains something better than before.
Or just understanding something more deeply.
Yeah, or simply a deeper, more nuanced understanding of a situation. Generally, the aims, they fall into maybe three broad buckets: observing and describing things,
Right.
predicting what might happen next,
Right.
or determining the causes behind why things happen.
Positive, okay.
And sometimes you'll hear research categorized too, like exploratory, if it's just mapping out new territory.
Kind of feeling things out.
Exactly. Or descriptive, if it's detailing characteristics. Or explanatory, if it's really digging into relationships and causes.
Got it. So if that's research generally, how does this apply specifically in the super fast-paced world of IT, ICT?
Right.
Our source defines ICT research pretty simply as the creation of new knowledge in any area of ICT.
Okay, straightforward enough.
But it makes me wonder, say I spend months build this brilliant new software program. Is that automatically research? Or is there more to it?
That's a really common question, and it's an important distinction to make.
Yeah.
So while writing a program is definitely valuable, it's innovative, the research part kicks in if you are creating new knowledge through that process.
Ah, okay. New knowledge through the process.
Exactly. For example, are you maybe developing a totally novel methodology for how software gets developed? Or are you rigorously testing a new algorithm, in a controlled way to really understand its performance characteristics?
Or studying users.
Or perhaps systematically studying user behavior around, say, a new interface to get insights you can generalize from. ICT research, it covers huge areas, everything from network protocols, cybersecurity, to how information systems are actually adopted and managed inside companies.
Wow, okay.
And you'll find these kinds of studies published in, top computer science journals like Communications of the ACM, or ones focused on information systems management like MIS Quarterly.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not just the thing you create, but the deliberate, systematic pursuit of knowledge
Yeah.
about that creation or the process.
Well put. Yes.
Okay, so keeping that in mind, let's zoom out a bit.
Right.
The whole idea of a project. We all kind of know what a project is. Our source defines a general one as a temporary sequence of unique and connected activities having one goal or purpose, and that must be completed by a specific time, within budget, and according to specification. Pretty standard stuff.
Yep. Project Management 101.
Right. So what makes a research project special within that definition?
Well, if we connect it back, a research project is simply a specific kind of project where the main goal, the overarching purpose, is explicitly the creation of new knowledge.
The goal is different.
The core goal is different. Like any project, sure, it needs careful planning. It usually moves through distinct phases, defining the problem, collecting data, analyzing it, and then, crucially, sharing the new knowledge you've created.
Right.
But the key difference is that every single activity within that research project should funnel towards that core purpose, answering a question in a way that actually expands what we know.
Okay, got it. So if a research project is all about creating new knowledge in this structured way, what are the different pathways or strategies researchers actually use? What's in that toolkit?
The approaches, yeah.
Our source highlights 5 common ones. It's almost like looking through different lenses to pursue that new knowledge.
Yeah.
Let's maybe explore each of them, starting with design and creation.
Okay, design and creation. What's fascinating here is that this one is really all about developing new ICP products or systems. Things.
You'll look at stuff.
Building stuff, yes, but it's more than just building. It involves systematically formalizing the process of design itself. So it means creating maybe a new model or a method or even a full computer-based system, and then rigorously demonstrating that it's novel, that it's effective. Its unique strength is that it can directly contribute innovative solutions.
Okay, like what kind of things?
Like designing intelligent systems, maybe developing new network routing protocols, or even creating brand new methodologies for developing systems. The research part comes from validating the process and the actual impact of that design.
Okay, makes sense. Next up, we have survey research. This one sounds really familiar, like, market research polls or product feedback forms we all get.
Precisely. That's a good connection. In survey research, you're systematically collecting the same kinds of data from a large group of people, or maybe events.
Right.
And this data can be quantitative, numbers from ratings, counts, or it can be qualitative, like open-ended comments, text.
Okay.
But the real power of surveys, when done well, is their ability to generalize findings. You take data from a carefully chosen representative sample.
A small group that represents the big group.
Exactly. And you can then generalize those findings to a much larger population. That gives you broad insights that just looking at 1 or 2 cases can't provide.
Where do you see this used a lot in ICT?
Oh, very frequently in information systems research, like those user satisfaction surveys you might get after using a system, or big studies looking at market adoption trends for new technologies. The challenge, of course, is designing them carefully.
Right, avoiding bias.
And administering them well to minimize bias and make sure the results are actually valid.
Okay. And then there's experimental research. This one, it immediately makes me think of lab coats, maybe beakers, tightly controlled settings, like science class.
That's a good visual, actually, because experiments are indeed designed specifically to find causal relationships.
Cause and effect.
Yes, between selected variables, but in an environment that controls for other possible explanations. They're really trying to answer, if I change X, what happens to Y and only Y?
So you need that control.
You need that control. They can be laboratory-based, sure, like comparing how different web page layouts affect maybe how long users stay on the page. Or they can be field experiments. Maybe you test a new system update on just one group of users out in the real world and compare them to a group that didn't get the update.
Oh.
The rigor, that strict control of variables, that's what lets researchers confidently claim that one thing causes another, rather than just being, correlated or happening at the same time.
Can you give an example in IT?
Sure. Think of human-computer interface, HCI studies. They constantly compare different interface designs to see which one leads to fewer errors. or faster task completion, or system performance comparisons testing which server configuration truly works best under heavy load. That's experimental.
Right, isolating that one factor. Okay, switching gears a bit now. We move to case study research. This sounds different, like focusing on something really specific and maybe digging deep.
It does, yeah. Case study research zooms in. It focuses intensely on one or maybe a few cases of something interesting.
What could be a case?
Oh, lots of things. A case might be an organization, a specific IT system, a particular development project, maybe even a specific online community or social media site.
Okay.
The key thing is that the case or cases, they're studied in depth, really in depth, usually using multiple methods to gather data like interviews, observations, looking at documents, logs.
Getting the whole picture.
Exactly. It lets researchers gain a really rich, holistic understanding of complex things happening within their actual real-world context. You lose some ability to generalize broadly, like a survey.
But you gain depth?
You gain incredible depth and context. Examples, maybe studying the reasons for strong user resistance to a new type of system within one particular company, or investigating the specific problems a team faced when they tried to implement a new agile development method.
Okay. I see the trade-off there. Finally, we have action research. The name itself sounds like it involves a very active, maybe hands-on role for the researcher, like they're doing something.
It absolutely does. That's the defining feature. Action research uniquely focuses on practical issues that need solving, and it aims for both practical outcomes, like actually improving the situation, and research outcomes, generating knowledge.
So it's doing and studying at the same time.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite similar to the case study approach in that it's in-depth, it's contextual, but crucially, it involves the active contribution, often an intervention, by the researcher within the situation they're studying.
Okay.
It's often described as a cycle. You plan something, you act on it, you observe what happens, and then you reflect on it, which leads to new planning.
Can you give an example?
Sure. A researcher might actively work with an organization, maybe to try and improve employees' compliance with security policies. They introduce training, maybe change procedures.
And they study if it works.
Exactly. They study the effects of their intervention, what worked, what didn't, why. Or maybe they help introduce tablets into a business process to try and improve efficiency while simultaneously studying how it changes workflows, communication, and effectiveness. They're part of the action.
Wow. Okay. That's quite involved. So what a deep dive. We've really covered some ground today.
We have
We
it.
defined research, really focusing on that creation of new knowledge part. We explored its aims, its outcomes, saw how it applies specifically to ICT.
Getting past just building something.
Right. And then we laid out those 5 critical approaches in the researcher's toolkit: design and creation, survey, experiment, case study, and auction research. You should now have a pretty solid framework for understanding how new knowledge gets made and validated in the tech world.
And understanding these different approaches, it's incredibly powerful. It really equips you, not just if you ever want to do research, but maybe more importantly, to critically evaluate the flood of information and claims you run into every single day.
That's a great point.
Which, it raises an important question for you listening. Now that you know about these methodologies, how might your own approach to tackling a complex problem or even just evaluating an information challenge, how might that change? Even if you're not doing formal research, like when you hear about some new tech breakthrough, which of these lenses, survey, experiment, case study, which one might you instinctively try to apply to understand it better?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Maybe consider this. The next time you encounter a new technology or you read some big claim about how effective a system is or see a report on user behavior,
All the time in tech news.
all the time,
Yeah.
you now have the tools to kind of intuitively ask, okay, wait, how was this knowledge created? Was this based on asking thousands of people in a survey? Was it a super controlled experiment? Was it a deep dive into one specific company's experience? Or maybe was it someone actively intervening and studying the results?
Asking how we know what we think we know.
Exactly. That's your takeaway to mull over a new way to critically engage with this world of information and innovation. Until our next deep dive.